welcome to another Frost Reads Reddit. And today we're going to be taking a break from all of the Karens and entitled people because I've got a great story from my favorite subreddit, r/no sleep. I absolutely love a good spooky story, and this one's just plain creepy. It's called, When I Was a Little Kid, the Thing I Feared Most Was My Stuffed Lemur. I was little, probably 7, maybe even 8, when my parents brought Lemmy home. They'd packed him up in a glittering gift bag stuffed to the brim with a rainbow of tissue paper. The wrapping was like a visual crack to my childhood mind, forcing my brain to dump an entire reserve of dopamine all at once. I was practically foaming at the mouth by the time they let me get my eager little hands on it. Their enthusiastic smiles mirrored my excitement as it came to a rolling boil. I decimated the tissue paper in record timing, bypassing the ribbon to tear straight through the thin layer between me and what I assumed to be the best gift ever. It wasn't even my birthday or Christmas or anything like that, though Miss Braxton had told me just that day that I was the absolute best in the class at spelling because. It's easy, I told her, beaming, then lowered my high-pitched voice to a whisper as if I'd discovered the greatest secret in the world. Big elephants can always use some exercise. She laughed and laughed and laughed, pressed both hands over her chest as if her heart was about to swell right out of her. Kind of like the Grinch, but she was never mean like he was. I knew at that moment then that whatever best gift ever I was about to unveil, I deserved it for making Miss Braxton laugh so hard that she cried that day. The excitement fell from my face just as the wrapping fell away from the gift. One look over it and I already knew. This wasn't the best gift ever. It was the worst gift ever. A stuffed animal, clearly secondhand judging by its tattered, matted gray and white fur, the concentration of dirt around its ears, its black and white ringtail barely holding onto its body, the scuff marks on its hard black nose. Worst of all, though, was its eyes. Massive bright orange orbs with dilated pupils locked into a menacing stare. It was a lemur, and I hated it. "Come on, Lenny, you love lemurs," my mom cooed, ruffling the grimy fur of its ears. "Remember the one we saw at the zoo?" I huffed, pouting, "I like the red pandas, Mom. I hate it. I don't want some other kid's toy." Turning on my heels, I ran straight up to my room. Even after my dramatics, my parents wouldn't give in. They just kept insisting that I loved lemurs. They even gave him a name, Lemmy. Lemmy and Lenny. They were so fond of their wordplay that they never let up. They must have thought it was the cutest thing ever. Me and my forced best friend. I remember feeling so lonely, so misunderstood. I remember feeling like maybe my parents never really knew me at all. I realized that I probably sound like a spoiled brat. Looking back now, I would be appalled at my own behavior if I was in my parents' shoes. I was actually a pretty good kid. Shared well with the other kids in my class. I even took Darren to the nurse's office when he busted his nose on the playground. All the other kids were too scared of him and the steady stream of blood gushing from his face. But I didn't hate Lemmy because he was used. Because he was some other kid's toy. I just didn't have the words to express how he made me feel. I hated him because of his wide eyes, his dark amber stare. I always felt watched around Lemmy. I felt violated. I felt suffocated. I felt paranoid when his eyes were permanently fixed on me. But I didn't know how to explain any of that, so I just didn't. Instead, I pushed him away, refusing to cuddle up with him at bedtime. My parents would tuck him in beside me and I'd punch him right off the bed, only to find him later sitting on this little wooden chair that I had set up in my room. Even in the dark, with only the dim glow of my race car nightlight, I could see him. Seeing me. I could see him watching me. His orange stare bored right through me, like a paralyzing toxin. His smothering gaze rendered my muscles useless. Every night I was plagued by nightmares featuring the stuffed toy. I know it sounds silly, but I'd toss and turn feverishly in my sleep, mind riddled with images of my demise at Lemmy's hands. I dreamed of his blank orange stare. I dreamed of his long arms reaching out and wrapping around my neck to strangle me. I dreamed of him hanging by his tail from the ceiling, then dropping down to get me. He was a fluffy toy, only about a foot long, but I was terrified of him. And every night after I discarded him on the floor, I would wake up to Lemmy sitting in his chair, watching. I tried to throw him out on more than one occasion, and even still, like clockwork, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and find him back in his spot on that chair. Working solely on kid logic, I reconciled with the fact that I wasn't getting rid of Lemmy. And if I wasn't getting rid of Lemmy, maybe he'd be less scary if I just left him where he clearly wanted to be. So, after my parents kissed me goodnight one night, I crept out of bed with the infernal toy tucked under my arm. I placed him there, sitting upright on the chair. He watched me, and I watched him back for a moment before shaking my head and turning him around so that he was facing the back of the chair. For the first time in months, I fell into bed relieved, fell into a comfortable, restful slumber. I startled awake mere hours later. Frustrated, I almost groaned, but the sound caught in my throat as I risked a look across the room. Sure enough, Lemmy was sitting on his chair, yet not like I'd left him. No, he'd turned himself right back around to face me. I found myself locked in his unblinking, penetrating stare. Even worse, his enormous red-orange eyes seemed to glow gently in the dark of my bedroom, but not like one of the many glow-in-the-dark toys lining the shelves in my room. Something about the glow felt omniscient, sinister. The power of his gaze was unbreakable, freezing me in place. I can remember likening it to being caught in a UFO's tractor beam, like I'd seen in cartoons, powerless to evade whatever my captor had in store for me. Even today, I'm not sure if it was his stare that held me, or more that I dare not look away for fear of what he'd do as soon as I let him out of my own sight. In a way, I think we'd trapped each other, locked in an eternal staring contest, waiting for the other to blink. I was the first to break, as a series of guttural clicks started to fill the room. I tried desperately to throw my covers over my head, but only succeeded in lethargically pulling my blanket up to my chin, my movements slow like the running of maple syrup on the pancakes my dad made every Sunday morning. The temperature dropped suddenly, quickly, forcing me to shiver even under the fluffy down comforter I'd cocooned myself in, as if it were some sort of safe haven. Again, kid logic. The raspy sounds grew louder, more oppressive, yet my gaze never wavered, nor did Lemmy's. The amber glow emanating from his gargantuan eyes grew brighter along with the horrific crescendo of croaky clicking. In that moment I just knew that he was the source of the disturbing sounds, that he was finally gearing up to end my life before it had barely begun. I knew I had to act, or I'd be 6 feet under by morning. Slowly, gingerly, I began to peel the covers away from my body, preparing to make a run for it, a mad dash to my parents' room. Eyes still trained on Lemmy, I noticed a flicker of movement somewhere in the corner of my eye. Instinctively, I glanced to my right, only for my eyes to land on something far more horrifying than the stuffed animal I was plotting my escape from. The knob to my closet door was turning, all on its own, as if something was inside. I could only watch as it made its slow arc around, time at a complete standstill until it completed its full revolution. The door creaked open, just a crack, before a pale hand reached through the sliver of space, giving way to an unnaturally elongated arm that stretched around the door's edge, bending backwards at the elbow to extend its forearm across the entire span of the door's surface. I wanted to scream or cry or shout for my parents to come to my rescue, but all I could do was wet myself. A second arm emerged from the void of my closet, elbow popping sickeningly as it wrapped around the door below the first. The third arm came much faster than the first two, more confident even. It spread itself along the wall, long fingers sweeping across the rocket ship wallpaper lining my room. The fourth arm joined the third, joints creaking as the elbows flexed backwards. I laid there still as a statue, as each individual appendage emerged until I could count 8 gruesome arms, 4 on each side, bracing themselves against the hard surface of the wall or the closet door, preparing to pounce. Abruptly, the door thrust open, and the rapid, throaty clicking hit me harder all at once, in a wall of deafening sound. Tears streamed down my face, a silent cry for help that I knew would reach no one, but I lacked the power for any action past that. I stared into the still darkness for the longest moment imaginable until a ghastly white head bobbed out of the inky blackness. A human head, without any of the trappings of humanity. No hair, no ears, no nose, no mouth, just eyes. 8 massive eyes. Each shining black eye blinked independently of the others, yet each one firmly locked on me, on its prey. With its body still hidden in the depths of my closet, it repositioned its arms, spreading them out from the floor to ceiling with a nauseating cracking sound. I wanted to close my eyes, but I couldn't, even in the face of certain death. I waited for its attack, resolving to spend my final moments by filling my mind with pleasant memories. The time I hit a home run in Little League, and Mom took me out for ice cream. That Christmas when Santa brought me an Xbox. Dad's special Sunday pancakes, making Miss Braxton laugh so hard that she cried. When Mom and Dad took me to the zoo and I found my favorite animal, the red panda, not the lemur. Deep in my reveries, time stretched on, painfully long and full of vile anticipation. I finally brought myself to squint my eyes shut as the monster stretched its neck out further, through the threshold of the door frame. Home run, Christmas, pancakes, Miss Braxton, Dad, Mom, the zoo. Home run, Christmas, pancakes, Miss Braxton, Dad, Mom, zoo. Yet the impending attack didn't come. Tentatively, I cracked my eyelids open, only to see the monster's head had swiveled to its right, so that I was no longer the target of its multitude of eyes. I cautiously craned my neck to peek at what had caught its attention. It was Lemmy, sat on his chair, his own head turned towards the monster. His eyes were glowing brighter than ever, almost neon, and locked on the beast in an unrelenting stare down. The gasping clicks began to fade away to a gentle whisper. The monster poised itself for a second longer before retreating back into the closet, hurriedly withdrawing all of its arms before slamming the door shut. Lemmy's neck twisted back to face me, to watch me in my bed. The illumination of his eyes dimmed slowly until the glow ultimately extinguished, to reveal his usual set of massive, glassy orange eyes. I never thought I'd get to sleep after any of that, but I had the most restful sleep of my life for the remaining hours until morning broke the next day. Immediately, Lemmy became my unlikely companion, my best friend, my greatest confidant, my nightly protector. I'm almost 18 and I still sleep with him snuggled under my arm every night. I can't explain what happened that night, and I doubt I'll ever be able to, but I do know that nothing has ever come out of that closet again, at least not that I'm aware of. Though sometimes, even now, I still wake up to find Lemmy perched in that chair, not watching me, but watching over me. I love scary stories. I love the way they make my spine tingle and make my hackles go straight up. I've been reading r/no sleep for a while now, and by far one of my favorite writers on that subreddit is her creation. But that's it for this one. I hope you guys enjoyed the story, and if you want to tell me what you thought about it, leave a comment down below. I love reading your guys' comments. Anyways, until next time, bye!
Oh yeah, I want to show our patrons some love too because they're awesome. Their contributions help us to afford all the neat stuff we use to record. So thank you. And if you want to become a patron too, you can click the link down in the description. You'd really be helping the channel out, and you'd get a couple nifty goodies too. Anyways, if you made it this far in the video, then yay, you're amazing. By the way, subscribe. Please don't make a foxy bag.